So what do you say we spend a little time in the garden today? All right, all right, all right. So I've got about 6 of these galvanized cattle panels here that I really don't use anymore. I've been using this stuff right here, this Hortonova trellis netting, for all my vertical growing, whether it be pole beans or cucumbers or English peas, stuff like that. So I don't really have a lot of use for these guys anymore, and they're just kind of been sitting here underneath my barn. But I've got an idea of how to implement them in our garden this spring. Now, I'm not planning on growing any pole beans or green beans this spring because we grew quite a bit of them in the fall. We canned a bunch of them. We've got a pantry full of jars of pole beans, green beans, snap beans, whatever you want to call them. So not growing any of those, but I am planning on growing a bunch of butter beans or lima beans. I want to have a bunch of those so we can freeze them, put them in the freezer, and we'll have them to eat all year long. And I particularly want to grow some climbing butter beans. Now, I could put them on the Hortonova trellis like I've been doing the last few years, and that works great. But I've got an idea how to utilize those cattle panels here. And what I'm going to try to do is make me a little arch trellis with those cattle panels. So instead of laying them, you know, along the row like we normally do, taking them and bending them and making an arch. I've seen this done by several of our row by row group members on Facebook, and it looks like it works pretty well. So we're going to give it a try this year with some of our Christmas Lima pole beans. So we've got this little plot right here. This is our smallest of our 10 plots, which is about 20 foot wide by about 25, 30 foot long. And this is where we're going to give it a go here. Now, this arch trellis I don't think is going to take up this whole plot, so we'll have some room over there on the right to plant some other stuff when we get the desire to, but I think it might take up about half of this plot here. So I've got 6 of these panels, and they're all 50 inches tall. And considering this part is the part that's going to be on the ground, we're going to have them stacked side by side. If we do the math there, maybe with a little overlap, that's going to give us about a 24, 25 foot row, which will work perfect for that little plot there. So we're going to plant these Christmas Lima pole beans on drip tape, and we'll have 2 rows. They'll be climbing up both sides of this little arch trellis there. So we need to do a little figuring and figure out how far apart the base of these panels are going to be to tell us where to put our drip tape, where we're going to plant our seeds. And I want this thing to be tall enough so I can walk underneath it. I'm 6'1" or so. And so I don't want to be stooping down when I'm underneath there picking the beans. I want it to be tall enough I can walk under there comfortably. So the height that we're going to use may be different than the height you use if you try this. You know, you want to do it to whatever is comfortable for you, so you're not reaching too far up and you're also not kind of bending over. So we want to do it so it's comfortable for me to walk underneath. So I took this one panel and kind of pinned it up against my compost bin there to see how far apart I need these bases here, or our rows. And this looks pretty good here. That's pretty comfortable. I can come in here from either side and pick these. So if we measure this, let's just say right here, we can see that we're going to need to put the base of this about 5 feet apart. So that tells us where we're going to put our rows, also where we're going to put our T-post, because we'll have a T-post on both sides of this to kind of keep it contained. So we need to put our rows, just 2 rows, 5 feet apart. So let's grab our drip tape, lay some drip tape, get our T-post in, and then we'll start throwing up these panels. All right, so we got our tape in, 2 rows there, 5 feet apart. We can see the little mini furrows are created by our drip tape layer, one right there and one right there. So we're going to put our T-post on the inside here of the tape, and then we'll plant on the outside of the tape. So let's get those T-posts in the ground.
This girl went to town at night. She got blinded by the fancy lights. Realize you cannot wait to live till tomorrow. So the girl stay at the yard. She found all the things you have to know about life. What if Jesus had a brother singing Sunny Tuesday? 'Cause Sunday's raining and I can't afford to hear the answers knocking on my door.
Phew, that's really a two-man job, but we got her did. Let's take a closer look. So there we go. There's our arch panel trellis, 6 panels long. I misfigured on my post spacing initially. I had to move some of those posts to make everything fit. In hindsight, you probably don't want to put all your posts in at one time. Just kind of piece it together and put in a post as you go. But this looks all right. It looks all right. It's no Taj Mahal. I think it'll look prettier once we get some butter beans running all over it there. And looks like it's tall enough. Gonna be plenty tall enough for us to walk under and do some harvesting there. So I'm pretty happy with it. And considering the time it took to put this up, which was about 30 minutes or so, this is not something you'd want to do just for one crop. So we'll want to be put some cucumbers or something else on here after these beans are done. And we might just leave it here permanently and just rotate different things that like to climb on this here. Now let's plant some beans. So the variety we're going to be planting today, like I said, is called Christmas Pole Lima Bean, or Christmas Lima Pole Bean. And this is one I've grown many times. Really good one. Some places call it a Florida speckled lima bean, but it's a bigger bean. You can see there it's got a nice little coloration on it. And unlike a green butter bean, these have a little nuttier flavor to them. You can wait and harvest them as a dry bean or harvest them fresh. They freeze really well, good to eat fresh, like I said. And I imagine on this arch trellis here, there'll be some beans that kind of get stuck on the top that we don't see. And we'll just save those for our dried beans and put those in a jar, and we'll just have them. The rest of them we'll harvest fresh and do our canning. Before we plant them in those furrows there, 2 things I'm going to put in the furrow. One is our granular garden soil inoculant. So this is going to improve the nitrogen fixation with these beans. So we'll sprinkle some along that in the furrow, or some of that along in the furrow. And then beans, they won't need a lot of fertilizer, especially with that inoculant there, improving the nitrogen fixation. But we are going to put just a little bit of this down the furrow, our complete organic fertilizer. So just a little bit of that pre-plant in the furrow, and that should be all the nutrients they need to really take off and climb all over this arch. And we'll plant these pretty thick since we're growing them vertically, so I'll put a seed every 3 or 4 inches or so. Throw them in there, and then we'll come behind there and cover them up, pack them in a little bit, add some water, and shouldn't take them long to come up. And they're in. Now we might have to do a little bit of training initially, since those beans are planted a few inches off the side of that trellis there. So we may have to kind of train them initially, but once they find that trellis there, take hold to it, should be off to the races. And I expect it's going to be mighty nice once it gets hot out here. Of course, it's pretty warm today, to walk underneath here and pick beans in the shade. So that was a good way to utilize those cattle panels there that we didn't really have any other use for. And like I said, we'll leave this here for several years. Considering the time it takes to put it up, take it down, it won't be going anywhere. We'll just make sure to rotate our crops on it. You know, we'll do beans, cucumbers, peas. We could do gourds on there. So we'll try to rotate the things we grow on there, so we're not planting the same thing here every time. But I'll just leave this guy here. So anytime we got a good vine in the crop, we can use this one and harvest in the shade. If you've ever done anything like this, made a arch panel trellis, definitely let me know in the comments below. I'm sure some of you guys have done this many times, and it looks a lot better than the one I made today. So if you got any tips and tricks on how to improve this, definitely let me know. I did think about doing it even wider and joining 2 panels at the top, but I couldn't figure out a way to do it without them kind of sagging, and I didn't want to run posts down the middle. So maybe you've got some suggestions there on how to put that together. I'll put some links below to the beans, the inoculant, and the fertilizer we used in this video, so you can head on over to our website and check those out. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Ring that bell so you get notified every time we come out with a new video. And if you did enjoy this one, make sure to check out these other 2 videos right here. I think you'll really enjoy those as well. We'll see you next time.